All right, this is Patrick Rogers, and today we have the privilege to have Andy McCartney on the show. And Andy is the CEO of Bowden Manufacturing and CNC Machine Shop in Cleveland, Ohio. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thanks, Patrick. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Glad to have you. So a little bit about Andy. First of all, he's a kick-ass man because he's a fellow naval nuclear engineer and officer. So that's first and foremost. But Andy's also, like I said, owner of Bowden Manufacturing. They serve customers in the defense, industrial, and aerospace industries. He has degrees from the U.S. Naval Academy and Tufts University, master's. After the Navy, he came back to Cleveland to run the business with his father in 1998, took over as president in 99, grew and ran the business for the last 24 years. Now Andy and his wife live in Cleveland, and they have 3 adult daughters scattered across the United States. So Andy, can't wait to dig into your journey with Bowden and what you guys do and how you've gotten there and some of the keys to your success. Before we do that, what's one interesting fact about yourself that not many people know?
So not many people know. When I was a kid, I used to ride unicycles. And so we got to play basketball on unicycles at halftime of like college basketball games. So that was pretty fun. Every once in a while, if I see somebody who's like juggling with a unicycle kind of out and around and go, hey, can I see that? Right. And so then I'll hold it up and look at it and then I'll just jump on it, which totally freaks them out. It's really fun.
That is fun. How long did you do that for?
So we would do it through high school. And I mean, we had a group that we would go do we used to do Cavs games. We would do like a performance with a big group that was more elementary school. And then I used to love playing basketball, and we'd go do it on unicycles at a halftime of a game, which was really fun.
Holy cow, you got to be really good on a unicycle to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we used to ride in parades all the time. We'd have the 5-foot ones, and then we'd have the regular ones. And I don't tell many people, and this is so hopefully not too many people will actually pay attention to the fact that we also used to square dance on them, which is a part of the distant past that my wife every once in a while likes to bring out shirts where we had like fringe on them and stuff to be a Western motif that, I definitely don't tell a lot of people about that. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, right? No, that's okay. I was a cheerleader in college. I don't tell too many people about that either. So could you do like a jump on the unicycle? Were you that good that you could like hit a jump?
You could. It's hard because you kind of have to keep it. You have to keep your seat on it, right? So we could jump up and down, like just standing there. We could just start hopping. But when you get too big a jump, it's like riding a bicycle and having it happen where you can't really take your body off the seat because you got nothing else on a unicycle to hang on to. So, you don't want to miss there. You just don't want to miss there when you're sitting and then you land. It doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I would not imagine. Awesome. Well, cool. So tell us about Bowden.
So CNC Machine Shop got here, and it was pretty traditional old line stuff, and we were doing a lot of defense stuff at the time. The aerospace certification was really not a lot of bolt-on from the defense stuff we were doing. Uncle Sam requires a lot of paperwork and a lot of traceability, and so when we went into the material traceability piece for aerospace was really the only piece that we weren't heavily doing, and so we did that pretty shortly after I got here. And trying to establish relationship with customers where and is common in industrial kind of stuff where the customer service isn't always great, and kind of that they'll get the parts when they're done, and we've definitely worked hard to make sure that we're proactively communicating where we send every customer an update every week just to let them know, hey, here's what's going on, here's what to expect, so that they don't have to ask. We really don't want them to have to pick up the phone and call us unless there's some sort of crisis, and then typically they know the status because they got it within the last week, and so trying to figure out how we solve the manpower issue is definitely something, manufacturing had it way before the pandemic came where, the trade schools were going away, trying to figure out, hey, what are other ways to get folks in here, to run machines. And we started, we talked and had some high school kids come in, but then we got into some college interns, and kind of blew that program out pretty big, to where we were hiring both interns and college grads, mechanical engineers, to teach them the fundamentals of manufacturing and You know, as you know from the Navy time, right? You go to your first ship and you're there replacing somebody who was there a couple of years, and then you're there a couple of years, and then the next person comes in to replace you. And so we've kind of adapted that mindset to machinists and young engineers where, you know, we get a young student from Case Western Reserve or Cleveland State or Akron or the three big universities around here. You know, they didn't get that degree so that they could run a machine for the rest of their lives. But if they run a machine for 2 or 3 or 4 years, they can learn a lot about manufacturing. When I went to Naval Academy, you know, the brainwashing was you got to have command of something one day, right? That's
Right.
that leadership mindset that you shared, and that brainwashing is similar in mechanical engineers, only they're brainwashed to want to be design engineers one day, right? They learn all these tools of how mechanical things go together. They can do 3D CAD like they're breathing, where us old dogs have to really figure out how do you get the computer to do what you want. For them, it's a
Right.
video game, right? But they have no idea what to really make it do. And so the opportunity to get them to understand manufacturing, you know, and I tell people the typical way a design engineer gets trained is they go to a big engine, you know, company that has a bunch of engineers, right? And they sit in a cubicle next to them. And at some point in pretty early on, they say, okay, hey, go design this part. And so they go to their cubicle, and 20 seconds later, you know, 3 minutes later, they've got the thing designed in CAD and they have the drawing. And then they say, okay, well, take it down to the shop and go get them made. Right. And so,
Mm.
hey, we need 3 of them. So they go down to the shop and they hand it to the person in the shop. And the person in the shop says, dude, you can't make this. Like, you've designed something that's unmakeable. And so, well, okay, what do I need to do? And so they say, oh, you got to change this radius, fix this tolerance, change this. And so they go back up to their cubicle, and 24 seconds later, it's done, and they're back, and hey, now it can be made. And they do that a couple dozen or a couple hundred times, and they become a design engineer. And so
Mm.
our alternative to that is, look, you go run a machine in our building, learn how to make stuff, learn how to hold a tolerance. If you hold plus or minus 2000s on a 1-inch diameter part for a day, you will never casually put a tight tolerance on a drawing that you design, right? And so to have them here for a couple of years, getting those basic fundamentals, and then to one day get that design engineer job that they want. Now they go to that cubicle, they design that part, they take it down to the shop, and first of all, the person isn't going to say you can't make this because they actually know how stuff gets made. But in the off chance that they did, then that person's now prepared to go, all right, let's go to your machine. I'll show you how to do this, because they've already done it, right? And so
Right.
that shift in paradigm where, you know, we have 20 degreed engineers and 17 of them are running machines every day, right? And
Mm.
I tell people in my industry, hey, how do you get, what's the Jedi mind trick you used on on them to get them to do that? And the answer is really you give them a program to learn how to do that. And they just came out of an engineering program to do another base fundamental program. We got to find people who don't mind getting dirty, actually like getting dirty using their hands. Um, and so it just finding those right fits for our environment to be able to do that. It's been really fun. So we've been doing that for about 7 years now. Our kind of first kid through, Nate, is still with us, and it's been 7 years. That's how I know how long the program has been.
Yeah.
But it's you know, they're really smart, so they're easy to train. And the biggest thing is to try and keep them busy enough and have enough different things going on that they can still feel that sense that they're learning and growing. Um, but so, you know, the ups and downs of stuff, our latest thing we've been using, and we got a robot that we brought in. It's kind
Oh,
of
wow.
a cobot slash robot. And so we're more of a job shop. So a long run for us is, you know, 500 or 1,000 pieces of something, which, you know, in our area in Cleveland, there's, you know, some big manufacturers. Swagelok is one of them. And they make a lot of fittings and fasteners, and they run tens of thousands of stuff, right? Lots and lots of volume. And they use robots and automation a lot less than I certainly would have expected, because it's actually a lot harder than it looks. And you got to find the right applications where you're either making where it's going to be dangerous for somebody to do something, is hyper repetitive to where a carpal tunnel kind of is a thing, right? Or where it's super boring for somebody, or you know, there's just the criteria that they've established on what you can automate like that. And so we found an area where we could do it, and it's been really successful. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, what's the next one? Because when you find the right spot, the payoff is pretty quick, which is
Mm.
say under a year, which was exciting for us. And yet now, you know, as we start consuming work in that area, the amount that we need to keep feeding it to make sure it's doing what it needs to do, right? If the robot doesn't have anything to run, then that's a problem. So, but so those are kind of the big things that we got going on.
Yeah.
It's made life pretty interesting and fun for us.
Yeah, very good. So I know you had mentioned one of the things we talked about before was biggest failure that you had experienced and learned from as a CEO, and you kind of referred to your senior leadership team in kind of a little not having enough pushback on you when certain things are going on. Tell us more about that.
When so when you're a relatively small company, and so our senior leadership team, there's 5 of us on the team, and there's kind of the next levels, there's 12 of us that we meet together weekly, and when you try and be pretty thoughtful and you have decisions to make or work through, and there's this balance, and it's almost an art, I think, where you want to, as the person in the ownership position, I want my team to make decisions, right? I want them to feel empowered to make decisions, and I want them to come tell me what they want to do. I want them to listen to my input, and yet if I get excited about something, they tend to just roll over, right? And just say, okay, well, that's
Yeah.
what he wants to do, so let's do that. And obviously I try and I try and make sure I have good ideas, but the opportunity to really push on them, to push back on me, what I've learned is that I gotta ask them 2 or 3 times to make
Mm.
sure, because what I don't want to have happen is them do what I say and then turn their brains off, and they don't do that, but it's certainly, there are many times where they feel constrained by the fact that I've wanted something, and I have to be really careful on the shop floor to say anything to somebody kind of in the middle of the organization,
Right,
because
right.
all of a sudden this, well, Andy said this, right? Now
Now
I
it's
could
all of a sudden the priority, right?
3 years ago, right? And I certainly don't want to change priorities or schedules as as are going. And so I have to be super careful. So really, when I go around the shop each day, it's mostly to say hi to everybody and check in, and just see how they're doing, not see what they're working on and what their plan for the day. That's all being taken care of by the team. And so for me, it's more of a go say hi and make sure that everybody knows that I'm actually a human being. I'm not some ogre in the corner that's and just beating on them, right? Because that's not my style at all. And yet, having the senior team push back at me when, hey, they want to do something different, and I come up with a lot of ideas, and I try and temper what I'm going to throw at them, because I don't want to overwhelm them, and I want to make sure that they're set up to be able to throw their ideas. And so it's getting better at asking questions, and then making sure, if I'm going to share my opinion, that after I share my opinion, I give them a chance to push back, and tell me how what I'm thinking is not right. Because we all know, if they have an idea that they're going to execute to solve a problem, and I give them my idea to execute to solve the problem, we know which one they're going to go more aggressively after, right? They're going to work to their idea way harder than they're going to work an idea that I gave them, right? That's just human nature, right? And so, so making sure that I only need to voice my opinion once I've got consensus from them. And usually, look, they're smart people, they're good at what they do. Let them run with their thing. Ask them questions to make sure that they've thought through everything, and don't ask those questions in a way that's leading them to a particular outcome. And so it's that balance of, how do they make a decision, and I can empower them to make that decision and feel like, hey, we can go and do this, and Andy's going to back me up. At the same time, provide input that doesn't then shut their conversation down, and say, okay, I guess this is what we have to do, right? And so that's, there have been times where, and it was funny, when I really understood that, then I watched it happen a couple times, where I felt us ending a meeting, and I could tell that they weren't settled on what we were deciding to do, and I had to stop them
Mm.
and say, okay, whoa, talk to
What are we
me, guys.
doing here? Yeah.
What's going on here? And well, I'm not sure about this part. Okay, well, let's figure it out, because we can't just talk about it forever, but we also have to make a decision that we're all going to get behind and go forward. And it doesn't, we want the best decision, not Andy's decision, right? And so there've been a couple times where I've seen that I had to slow them down and really pull them back into, hey, let's make sure we're all in a good spot and we all understand what we're doing. And it doesn't mean we're always going to all agree, but we got to ultimately get to, okay, this is the decision, this is the best case of what we can do going forward. And we may have to make a new decision tomorrow. Okay, but we really, let's make a good decision today and let's all be behind it. And the more I can make those decisions come out of them, the better. And the more I can get them to push back when I have ideas, I want to be sharing them all together, not have my idea override it just because I'm the bottom line, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Did you, I mean, with 5 people and plus yourself, there's a lot of dynamics going on there.
Mhm.
There's a lot, I mean, as you've been able to understand, have you done any kind of like workshops or brought in any experts, personality, behavior to help each other understand each other?
We've done a bunch of that, and we've Darren Hardy we've done some courses with him, and a lot of the ability to communicate in a consistent manner week over week, and our team of 12 get together and debrief every week. The disc profile and stuff we did early on, and I think you know the compatibility that we share is pretty good. There's opportunity, of course, to improve that. Some of Patrick Lencioni's stuff's really good, and this working genius model that just came out recently in his last
Yeah,
book, I'm pretty
I've heard that's
excited
really
about
good.
that. But no, it is. I mean, working together and having an outsider come in and provide tools and
Yeah.
ways of communicating is definitely helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and there's a lot of different ones out there. I know another thing that you had mentioned that has been significant for you guys was the implementing the IIoT, right? Industrial Internet of Things on your floor. Tell us more.
So one of the things that always was nagging at us was how do we measure productivity on the shop floor and in anything other than a history lesson of, okay, what happened yesterday, and having it be cumbersome for the team to be able to recording a bunch of stuff. And I mean, in the good old days when I got here, they would try and remember how much time they spent on everything during the day on a piece of paper at the end of the day. And so, you know, I mean, when doing food things and you're trying to remember what you ate the last day, like give me a break, right? And so trying to remember, okay, I spent how much time on which operation, which job, how many pieces did I get, all that stuff. It was very human dependent, and good information, you get good data. Bad information or haphazard, it's not good. And so the opportunity to start looking at how we can use the power of the internet in some of the stages. So we have on every machine, we have a sensor that measures the current that's being drawn by each machine. So it works on pretty much any electrical thing. When you put it into cycle, so when we start the machine and it's going to go cut something, it draws more power. And
Mm,
so setting a threshold for when it's running, this sensor, clicks in, and then, the folks who put it together have a big dashboard that shows, how many hours has it been running during this time period. And so we can set targets and be able to visually see, hey, are those machines running? It's a cloud-based system. So you can be at home and you can plug in to see, hey, are those machines running or not? Which actually has really helped us with the robots when we got them, the robot running when nobody's in the building. You can see whether it's actually cycling or not. But so being able to collect that data real time has been really important for us to see what we know. At the end of the shift, every shift turning over to the next shift, you've just finished your 8 hours, your 8.5 hours, and you're tired, and the next person is coming in, and sometimes they're tired too because they're just getting out of bed or whatever, starting their day. And so that information exchange and is extremely important.
right.
And to be at the end of your shift and write down kind of what happened is very difficult to be able to pull all that data and have it feel like it's well done. The one thing that we see is, and the system will send an email out after third shift. And so when our first shift team is coming in, uh, you can already see the data and know. And for those of us who come in the office and you had a plan for what was going to happen, to know what happened before you go out there really helps you control your emotions when you go, right? So if you expected something was going to run on second and third shift and you find out that it didn't, knowing what happened before you walk out it's better that you don't show your disappointment when you're out in front of everybody, because it doesn't help, right? And so dealing with the problem as it's real, getting that information ahead of time, being able to see what's going on before you go out, can definitely just help you encourage the team, because they're working it hard, and not everything. Murphy is alive in this building as it is in most other manufacturing
Right.
facilities. And when stuff goes sideways, it's not fun for anybody. But you definitely don't want to add to that the surprise of the team leader going out and seeing, oh wait, this didn't run. What happened?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah.
so
Well, it's kind of the same thing with our, nuclear world, the turnover, don't get surprised by something on turnover, right? It's the biggest thing, right? Your
yeah,
oncoming shift discovers something you didn't know about. That's never good, right?
it's never
Um,
good.
never good. Awesome. Well, let me ask, so if you were going to hire a CEO to take the reins for your company, what's the one book you'd require they read, and why?
Well, so it's I love the question that you asked, almost like I guess, and so the book that's had a huge impact on me, especially recently, is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Mm,
And
great book.
the opportunity to be able to have this sense of all of us, a customer being the hero of the story, and how do we get them to see that the problem that we're solving for them helps them to achieve what they're looking for. I think we use it both on the hiring and employee side. I think it's not a Jedi mind trick. It's the story brand framework that says to these young engineers, hey, you have a piece of paper that says you're smart, but you don't know how to get to where you want to be, which is that design engineer that can do stuff. And we have a plan for you. Come spend some time with us. And for customers to say, hey, look, you have right now, the defense manufacturing is a big world. Like, and to have
Mhm.
those guys say, hey, look, our issue is not getting orders right now. Our
Yeah.
issue is how do we get stuff out the door? And so for them to say, look, we have capacity. We know how we do direct to Uncle Sam. We work with a lot of tier one defense suppliers. We can help you get the products that you need to get the stuff shipped and be able to achieve your needs, and to communicate in that fashion. Um, you start to see the story and everything once you've read that book and spend time in that zone. So that would definitely be the book that I'd recommend.
Yeah, it's an amazing book, and he breaks it down to such, steps. The whole concept of marketing, and breaks it down to just, marketing your company and your story to I don't want to say to simple, stupid, but just very simple. I mean, it takes the whole thing and breaks it down.
Very straightforward. No, I love
Yeah.
it.
Awesome. Well, hey, so I want to take just a couple of minutes and summarize some of my key takeaways. One is that you've implemented this kind of hiring program for degreed engineers to bring them in, and they're on the shop, they're getting their hands dirty, and they're learning how to run CNC machinery. And they're able to, from that, they're able to take that real world experience. And when they become design engineers, they're going to be that much better at their job because of the real hands-on experience. And you're with that, I think it's really cool is you're looking for people that are humble, right? Because if a lot of engineers, come out, they're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm too good for that, right? Whereas if they can, see the forest through the trees and understand the reasoning behind it, it helps them out in the long run, their career development, everything. Um, Another one was, the IIoT. That's being able to really embrace that technology instead of relying on, a lot of what the Navy nuclear program used to use, which is technology from 1950s, right? Recycling it. But yeah, and then the other one I thought was really good for me was this concept of your senior leadership, that whole dynamic with your senior leadership, and us recognizing as a CEO that sometimes you walk into a room and you're the only opinion that matters and to them, and that's, man, that's how you get in trouble. That's how you get in trouble, is because you need people to feel comfortable for speaking up and to voice their opinion and to be able to come to a conclusive direction for the company, potentially even without you altogether. So definitely fantastic stuff there. Andy, if there was one takeaway that you'd really want the audience to absorb from our time together today, what would that be?
Well, I think so. I guess I'd say one and one and a plus, and the one is that what you talked about, just leading, because I do think that it's really easy. You got to be a CEO because you're pretty smart and you're a capable operator, and yet, especially the older I get, the more I realize that there's a lot of ideas of other people, and how to incorporate those to get our team to function to its best. Is really important to tap into those things. And it's once you see that, then you start getting surprised, and surprised in a positive way, that people can come up with creative ways to do stuff that weren't on your radar screen, and they got a different
Yeah,
perspective, and to have them engage in their ideas, they're going to take them and run with them way farther and faster than they would any idea I'm going to give them.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
and I
Yeah,
and I guess the second corollary, and it's particular to manufacturing, just because I believe, and the pandemic helped, I think, more people see that if we continue to apply ingenuity and creativity, that American manufacturing can get back to being the leader in the world, and being able to do important and good stuff. And whether it's different ways of hiring people, different ways of monitoring machines, different ways of automating processes. The more thoughtful we get, and the more we can engage up and down the supply chain to do stuff, that's going to allow that we here in the States can keep doing good stuff out into the future. And I know our defense industry is counting on us. And that hits pretty close to home for you and me. But there's so much other stuff that we can also, I mean, hey, we can do it. As long as we engage our brains and want to. So that would be, I guess, the second message is a manufacturing specific one that says, let's keep innovating, get creative on how we can do stuff so we can do it better.
absolutely. And I just want to re-echo what you said about, when people take their own idea and promulgate it versus yours, they're going to own it. They're going to be much more passionate about it. And, people support what they help create. That's
Yeah.
just all there is to it. So,
When the
uh,
satisfaction that they get on the other side of that is a big part of what gives us that fulfillment of doing our job, is to see them come
that's
up with
right.
something cool and take it and run with it and have success. It's just awesome, right?
Yeah. Very cool, man. Andy, if any of our listeners want to reach out and get a hold of you for any questions, perhaps on the podcast or leadership, anything like that, what's the best way they could do that?
Usually it's email, Andy@BowdenMFG.com. It's short for
Okay,
Bowden Manufacturing, right? And yeah, that's definitely the easiest way to get into my zone. So,
cool. Awesome. Andy, thanks again for being on the show. This was fantastic, man.
no, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Patrick.
You bet. And for the listeners out there, please hit the like and subscribe button and help us spread the word about what we're doing. We're helping the next generation of CEOs and leaders be that much more successful. With that, this is your host, Patrick Rogers, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks a lot.